Well, most of us have not ever been in jail for any reason. Maybe somebody has, but for the most part, we have not been in jail. Most of us have not even been to a jail to see what it's like to be inside on some kind of tour or anything like that. The evidence that we have of jail is usually from an old Western or some movie that we've seen. Uh, just as a side remark, Jim Porter used to be a member here, and he taught GED in the jail here in town for several years, every week for several years. And he told me one time that is no matter how many times he went, when he went through the whichever door gate it was, and that door slammed shut, just for a moment, he had that feeling that I am trapped in here, even though, he got out in an hour and a half every time. But it's still, when he just, and that door slammed and there was no knob and there was no way out without help, that it was just for a moment, it kind of, I don't know, stung him a little bit. Anyway, nobody wants to be in jail. Besides being known as being guilty of something or even charged with something. They always said if you ever want to get out of jury duty, just say, well, they wouldn't have arrested him if he wasn't guilty, and that'll eliminate that. But at any rate, the point being is that when you are arrested, you're presumed, even though you're presumed innocent according to the law, people just think you're guilty. And so nobody wants that to happen. And being locked up, you are deprived of your freedom. That's the key point. Jails are certainly better than they used to be, either from what we've seen on TV or in thinking about jails 2,000 years ago. I'm confident that our jails are better than those, because in a jail, you wake up when you're told to, you go to bed when you're told to, you eat when you're told to, you eat what you're provided. You've got no reason to choose. You've got no freedom to choose. There's probably some dangers in there too from other people. You have a higher authority of some sort who controls you in everything. Would you choose to be that way? Would you choose to be that way? Well, no. I can't imagine anybody would until I turn to the Bible. Ephesians 3:1. I've got two versions, and there's other versions, but I'll make the point in a second. 3:1 says, for this reason, I, Paul, the prisoner of Christ Jesus, for the sake of you Gentiles. Using another version, it says, for this reason, I, Paul, a prisoner for Jesus Christ, on behalf of you Gentiles. And then other versions will use a different word in there. And I think the word could be something different. I'm not going to let Zach look it up right now and tell me, but we're going to look at a couple of the words. Some of them say he is a prisoner of the Lord, and some of them say for the Lord. Looking over at 4:1, we just read 3:1, 4:1. Therefore, I, the prisoner of the Lord, implore you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling with which you've been called. 4:1 in this other version might say the same thing. I, therefore, a prisoner for the Lord, beg you to lead a life worthy of the calling to which you've been called. So one says a prisoner of the Lord, the other one says a prisoner for the Lord. That's the New American Standard and the English Standard. So do they mean the same thing? Maybe. Do they mean something similar? Probably. But they mean something. If we look at the 4, that's saying that Paul is a prisoner because of his faith, and his faith being in action for the Lord caused people to not like what he said and did something about it. Had he not said and done so many of those things for the Lord, he would not have been in prison or stoned or beaten or shipwrecked or go through the whole long list of things. He might even have been a wealthy, respected Pharisee because he was on the road to be that. Not the road to Damascus, but on the pathway to become a great, wealthy, respected Pharisee, a Pharisee of Pharisees from the tribe of Benjamin. He was on his way to success, and he gave all that up because he was a prisoner for the Lord. He chose to be what he was, and he was willing to suffer for it. So he was imprisoned for his faith. That makes perfect sense. Now let's look at the other idea of the Lord, meaning he is a prisoner of Christ, imprisoned by Christ. What can that mean? That he chose to give up his freedom in order to be completely obedient to a higher authority. He went where he was told. He did what he was told. He said what he was told. He volunteered to be controlled by another, which was Christ. The reason's the same, and the result's the same, is to teach, to lead others to Christ, which of course he did, and for his own salvation also is what he was working for. But remember, was he a prisoner for Christ? Meaning he was willing to be a prisoner because he followed Christ? Or was he a prisoner of Christ who controlled, who gave him instructions and he followed it? A willing prisoner, a willing servant, a willing prisoner of Christ to do what he was told, to go where he was told, to teach what he was told, to say and do all the things that he was put himself under subjection to. Either way, it's a very good story. And the answer is picking either direction you want to go from that of or for. Are we willing to do the same, and would we, if called upon, to do what he was called upon to do? I think that's the point for us now. We are not called the way he was, to go to jail, to be beaten, to be shipwrecked, to lose everything. We're not called to do that, and I guess that's a fortunate thing for us. But would we if we were called? And if we would not, that's something we need to think about for our own future and our own salvation. Let's think on these things while we stand and sing.
Here we are but straying pilgrims, here our path is often dim, but to cheer us on our journey, still we sing this wayside hymn. Yonder over the rolling river, where the shining mansions rise, soon will be our home forever, and the smile of the blessed giver gladdens all our longing eyes. Here our feet are often weary on the hills that throng our way. Here the tempest darkly gathers, but our hearts within us say, yonder over the rolling river, where the shining mansions rise, soon will be our home forever, and the smile of the blessed giver gladdens all our longing eyes.